Yeah, I like I've watched a few unified bouts, not a ton, but I did see that a couple guys from WAMA here in Winnipeg came out to compete in Edmonton, and I think it was mixed results, but
Yeah.
it's exciting stuff, and one of the things I just kind of wanted to ask you a little bit about was just the growth of MMA for Canada, right? Like I would say it's from what I'm observing, it's relatively new, but there's a lot of fans, a lot of gyms, a lot of kind of competition. So how do you see it growing as a fighter yourself?
Well, before I got into fighting, I got in old at like 27, right? So, I was a big fan of MMA prior, obviously, to that. And, being involved in the community, I trained out of Shaved Bears, obviously lucky enough to train with one of the best fighters, I think, in Canada, Tanner Bozer. He's an ex-UFC fighter.
Yeah.
He's probably going to be, I would imagine, in a major promotion here quite soon. But I grew up in St. Catharines, so I go back and visit often. And they have a great gym down there. That Niagara Top team, they're producing some of the best fighters out of Canada. Jasmine Judavicius, Mike Malott, Aaron Jeffries, Shane Powell. Like there's a lot of great fighters across Canada. A lot of guys. I think we're all kind of just rooting for each other. I don't really know what other people's opinions are, but I'm rooting for everyone. Canada.
Yeah.
I want to see us get on the map, and do more great things because since GSP we kind of been a little quiet.
Yeah, that's what I feel the same way. Like I went to UFC 297 in Toronto to watch Mike and some of the other Canadians fight, and the men didn't have a great night out, but at the same time, like there's definitely a lot of talent, and there's some roots here, I think. So I just think there's nowhere to go but up. And I watched a lot of Tanner's fights, and so he's a beast. And I want to support a lot of more of the local MMA promotions like Unified and things like that, just so that we can kind of build it up, right?
Yeah, like in Edmonton, we're lucky enough to have Unified with Sonny, and now they're doing some Unified boxing stuff, which is really great. I'm a big boxing fan as well, and there's like Alliance Promotions, which is a great boxing promotion as well. And now there's like Real Deal Promotions out of Edmonton, which is also doing, they got like 4-ounce Muay Thai, 4-ounce boxing. I believe they're looking at hopefully getting into bare knuckle as well. They also have professional boxing on that card as well. So there's lots of good opportunities for fighters to grow and get better. And I think, really there is no substitute for just getting in there, seeing if you love it or not, and then going from there, right? But there is a good community, I think, across Canada. And I mean, myself specifically, I'm rooting for everyone. I want to see anyone, I don't care, man or woman, pro boxer, bare knuckle, whatever, right? I want to see us do well. And, I think that, Canadians are inherently hard workers. And everyone that I've trained with that's a professional or, at one of the major gyms like NTT or Shaved Bears, or WAMA, just insanely hard work ethics. And, I truly do think it just is going to be a matter of time now until there's some big names up there. Like, I mean, Aaron Jeffries is number 2 in Bellator. Yeah. Mike Malott is in the top 15 now of the UFC, right? Tanner was in, the UFC. He should have been in the top 15 in both heavyweight and light heavyweight, in my opinion. So, it's just a matter of time now. Just the young kids got to make their mark, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, as the sport grows in popularity, even globally and within the country, I feel like there's going to be a lot more talent that rises up through the ranks, right? To where people see
for
them.
For sure. Like some of these kids I'm training with now are like 20 years old, just in university. And I go down to Niagara and they have like 100 people on their mat, in their pro practice sometimes. It's like, it's crazy to see how good some of these kids are. I'm like getting my ass beat by like 19 and 20-year-olds. And I'm just like, what the hell?
I mean, I don't have much of a like striking I've been to a few striking gyms, but I started, I've done some jujitsu, and
Yeah.
there's this one kid, he might've been 14, 15 years old at the time. And like his dad's a jujitsu black belt. Right. And so I'd roll with him, and like I had a little bit of a strength advantage, but he was so slick with his technique. And then I didn't see him for an entire summer. He came back, he had his growth spurt. Now he's like 6'5", maybe 18 years old, and like has a ton of skill. And I'm just like, yeah, man, I'll roll with you, but I'm gonna get my ass beat.
I know it's not even fair for us old guys a lot of the time. I feel like I'm just trying to train as much as I can and do the best I can. But these kids there's going to be some special athletes, I think, coming out of Canada. I really do. Especially with, our community. I feel like in Edmonton, at least, is old school. They push hard work ethic. At least at my gym, we push work ethic. And now we're starting to get some people in place. Like Tanner, veteran. Has so much knowledge to share. Frank Lee's Muay Thai gym. It's been around for like 80 years. And now Frank Lee's got pupils that are training Tanner, like Cadro, and all the knowledge is being shared across generations now, right? And we're going to really start to see some young guys, I think, come up here quite soon.
Yeah, it's fantastic. One of the things that I wanted to ask you, so you said you started to train late. Like, did you always want to be a fighter, or is it just something you kind of stumbled into? Like you said, you're a fan first.
Well, in prior to university, when I was in high school, I wrestled for a couple of years. I didn't have the work ethic to do anything really well. I went to provincials, but it lost. And then, I started training at this old gym out of Niagara when I was like 18 called Fight Club Canada. Okay. Trained there for about a year, and then I moved away, and I really just couldn't afford it, and then kind of just lost touch and just started doing more like I played varsity hockey and varsity baseball, and then I got into more of other athletics, and then I kind of got bored, and I was like, I really want to start challenging myself both physically and mentally. And that's when I kind of got into jiu-jitsu. And then I kind of always liked boxing. I loved watching boxing, and I love watching striking, obviously. So I started to do some striking and stuff. And then, I got the opportunity to train with some professional guys, and they're kind of like, hey, man, you're tough. Do you want to maybe do an amateur fight? And I was like, fuck, what do I got to lose, right? I mean, I love, I'm not scared, at least, right?
Yeah.
So I got in there, and I was a lot more scared than I thought I was going to be.
Yeah.
And, I kind of got addicted to overcoming the fear of the challenge,
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I'm at. I just love being able to, put your nose to the grind and achieve things you honestly never thought you could achieve. And even as an older person, it's rewarding, obviously, right? And then you get to spend time with, training partners who are younger than you, some around your age, some that are older than you, and you all kind of start rooting for each other, and you become a team. And I kind of got addicted to that, It's seeing each other, achieve great things. And then you meet people that are different, right? Like the mindset of a fighter and the training style of a fighter it's different, man. There's nothing like it. You can't really explain, what the walk's like to people who haven't made it, right? You really can't understand it unless you do it, right? And it's it's addicting, but you also share that common bond now, right, with other people at your gym and other people around the world, right? So that's kind of what got me hooked.
Yeah, well, I mean, I have a ton of respect for all the fighters out there, just because I know it's probably something I would never do in a million years. Like I do that. I'm a huge fan. I'll go and train as a hobbyist. I like the jiu-jitsu competition, but I couldn't imagine like on that stage, all the lights in front of everybody. Like it's just something that I give huge respect for anybody who's willing to make that walk. So
yeah, and when you do it, it's like, holy shit, like this is fucking crazy. And then you're like, wow, I can't believe I actually accomplished that. Looking back, I was able to fight 4 times as a heavyweight and under unified banner win their, amateur championship. That was a huge accomplishment for me. And, when I started training, in 2000 and I think 21, I never in a million years thought that would even be something that I could consider doing. And then, you just build up the mental fortitude over years of training and encouragement from your training partners and your coaches and stuff. And it really does change who you are as a human being, like for the better, I truly believe, right? Even if you lose, you still learn, right?
Yeah.
And you grow as a human being, not just in the ring or as a fighter. You just grow as a human, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm addicted to, just getting better as a person overall, right? Not just as a fighter, right?
I find it so interesting because some of the people that can, truly whoop my ass, right, are some of the like kindest and friendliest people I've ever met. You know what I mean? Like at the jiu-jitsu gym, the guy who could strangle me 16 times within a 10-second period, he's just like a big teddy bear, right?
Yeah.
In life. And I found the same thing at most, MMA gyms or Muay Thai gyms. Like everybody's so kind, and it's just interesting because the perception of fighters is you guys are like mean, you're tough, you're all these things. But then at the same time, I've also met a ton of fighters who are just like really, really nice people. What do you think about that?
I agree. I think, you know what? It's impossible not to be humble as a fighter because there's always someone who's going to, and if you're in the right gym at least, someone who can whoop your ass, right? So if you're walking around like a dickhead, treating people like an idiot in the gym, at some point you're going to have to pay the price, right? Or if you're not, disciplined and training as hard as you can for a fight, it's a brutal game, right? Like you're going to have to pay your dues if you don't pay your dues, right? So if you're like fucking around during your training camp, you're drinking, you're not training hard, you're not staying mentally engaged. Well, the game's going to teach you that lesson of humbleness, right? It's going to teach you humility. And, I truly think, if you're not a humble person, you can't be, that nice, to people like you who just walk in the gym or someone who just walks into the gym the first day, because, we all had to learn those lessons over the years. I was a hell of a lot less humble before I fought than I am now, right? Just because, there's really nothing like being injured or going or taking a loss, in a big promotion, like BKFC or something to truly teach you, that resilience and humility is, the key to life, honestly, and being a good person, I truly believe. So, those lessons that you can't really learn those lessons anywhere else other than a gym, that has combat sports, and coming into the game later in life and having gone through, playing other sports at a high level or, being in law enforcement, you see the type of personalities in people who definitely haven't been given a beating or got their ass beat by someone before, right? You can't teach it, you really can't. You got to go through it. And that's why I truly think, when you go to these MMA gyms and stuff, like all those guys that are black belts or brown belts or even blue belts, have been through those challenging times. And if they didn't get through them, they wouldn't be a belt holder, right? Or they wouldn't have competed again. They would have just quit, right? And, and those life lessons are what make you want to help people, I think, and want to help people gain that confidence and, achieve those things, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I wanted to just quickly ask, because you mentioned it there, you did have that loss recently with BKFC. And a lot of fighters, from what I've seen, kind of go one of two ways. They just shrug it off and kind of are fine. A lot of them, kind of, have a tough time handling it. So how do you handle a loss like that? How do you come back from that? Just wanted to ask you those questions.
Well, I mean, to be brutally honest, like it was hard, obviously at first, right? Like I haven't lost in a professional setting or even, at all since I stepped in the ring or the cage, right? So, I've taken a lot of L's in other aspects of life,
Mhm.
at work or whatever in the gym, and it messed me up honestly mentally, and that I thought that I was a lot different. I thought I thought I could just do it, do a hard weight cut and definitely be able to take shots. But, you know, I really I didn't respect the game the way I should have leading up to that fight, right? And I paid the price for it.
Mhm.
I thought I could just walk in there cutting 30 pounds like it was no big deal and not really be affected by it, right? I didn't take the advice of some of my coaches leading into the fight, and I paid the price, and I needed to learn those lessons. And I think if you don't look at, like, I look at the game as a whole now, right? And even
Yeah.
before I got into the game, I looked at it like I wanted to get into the game because I wanted to challenge myself. And if you don't take losses along the way, then you're not challenging yourself enough, right? And I think, that taught me some valuable lessons. I took some time off. I talked to my coaches. We discussed what needed to be changed. And I'm fired up to get back in there. You know what I mean? Like, I'm psyched. I rested my brain a little bit. I rested my body. I rested my mind. I am excited now to get back into the ring and to challenge myself even further, right? I feel like, even though I lost, I'm better than I've ever been right now, both mentally and physically,
Mhm.
leading into the next fight. And, I cannot wait to get back in there. Win or lose, I can't wait to get in there and compete again and challenge myself. And I think that's what it's all about, right? If you care about your record, you know, you really, like, I mean, obviously I care about my record, but like if
Yeah.
if you're not going in there and you're challenge and you're not taking chances and challenging yourself, like, to me it's like, what's the point, honestly?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Makes a
I
ton of
mean,
sense.
I truly believe, like, Tanner's, one of the best fighters I've ever met, one of the best, people, I've ever met, and definitely the hardest worker I've ever met in my life. I've never seen anyone be able to do that in the gym, some of the things he's done. And his record, he's got 10 losses, right?
Yeah.
And Shane Campbell also told me after my loss, who is definitely one of the best mixed martial artists in Canadian history, ex UFC fighter. He's like, I went 0-2 when I started my career, dude. He's
Yeah.
like, you can make it, let it make you or let it break you. And with the people surrounding me at Shaved Bears and Little Sweatshop, it's like, there's no way it's going to break me. And I never really felt like it was going to break me. I just felt like, it was hard. It's something I never dealt with before. And, you know, I'm glad it happened because now I'm ready to go in there and do what needs to be done. I don't think I truly appreciated what needed to be done until I took the loss.
Yeah. Well, it's
So,
interesting. They do talk a lot about how, like, there's a lot of fighters that who said they felt relieved once they got that kind of first loss out of the way, because now, like, nothing's sort of cloud and they can just focus on fighting and stuff like
yeah.
that. So I'm wondering if maybe that kind of feels the same way for you.
I kind of figured at some point I was going to take a loss because I'm
Yeah.
like, fuck, I've only been training for like, I think 3 years now. And I'm like, I want to fight guys who are good, right? Like, I don't want to get in there and fight bums. I want to fight guys who are going to, eventually help me hopefully get led to a title shot at some point in Unified or with another federation, right? Like, I went to BKFC because I wanted to fucking make money and I wanted to see if I could do something that 98% of the world is afraid to do, right?
Mhm.
And I wanted to prove to myself that I could do it, and I wanted to prove to myself that I could hang in a federation like that. And you know what, it was a good experience. And I got nothing negative to say about BKFC. They paid really well. They were The card was awesome, but I just, wasn't prepared enough. I don't think, I wasn't prepared to, get into a small ring like that. I definitely didn't anticipate, how close we were going to be. Like, I didn't think it was going to be that. I thought I would be able to move around a little bit more, use some of my boxing skills, but it was more of a, toe to toe scrap right off the bat than I was anticipating. And you know what? That's good because I learned from it. I learned how to fight, and I've been learning where my weaknesses are, right? And so I wouldn't say I was relieved, but every time you lose or win, you have to address what went wrong, and I've been addressing it, and I think I'm gonna honestly be significantly better the next time I get in the ring because of the loss. I honestly do.
Yeah, that's great to hear. I always love a comeback story, and I always, I'm rooting for the Canadians, right? To do well in MMA and combat sports. So, what do you prefer? Do you prefer just the boxing or MMA as a whole, or do you like both?
Well, I would say I love to watch boxing. I love the sweet science. I think it's a beautiful sport. I truly appreciate, how amazingly difficult it is. And I just, obviously you look up to the older legends, right? Like from back in the 70s and the 80s, right?
Yeah.
And the 90s, like Tyson and Hagler and all those guys and their work ethic. But at the same time, I truly love MMA because it's the rawest, most real, closest thing I think you can get to an actual fight that there is. Boxing's great, right? But yeah, you go up against a wrestler, this guy's just going to take you down and stomp on your head, right?
Yeah.
And same with like a jiu-jitsu guy. Like, great, yeah, boxing is cool. And you could definitely, if this jujitsu guy tries to step to you, with his hands up, you're going to get knocked out. But like, I just love the true I think like the realness of mixed martial arts is what, attracts me to the sport the most, right? Like if I clip someone and my wrestling sucks, well, I'm going to get taken down and I'm going to get submitted.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to be well-rounded, and I like that. I like that aspect of it, and I love grappling too, right? Like I think grappling is like a science in itself, right? So, I think being able to mesh everything and into your own style is what attracts me more to MMA. And I like, honestly, my favorite thing to do is MMA.
Yeah.
Yeah, like as a whole.
Yeah. I can definitely see that. So first of all, is there any fighters out there that like inspired you kind of growing up or anything, or even currently, are there any fighters out there that kind of inspire you?
Yeah, like my favorite, like I got a couple favorite fighters. Like my favorite MMA fighter of all time is Robbie Lawler, just because he's like southpaw, he likes to brawl, obviously, and he's got wicked takedown defense, and he's just mentally just so strong, right? And who retires on a KO like that? Like literally
no kidding.
Right. And then Marvin Hagler was just his mental fortitude, and he was a southpaw as well. He fought the system a lot, and I like that anti-system, kind of thing. But personally, since I started fighting, obviously looking up to Bose Tanner and Chris Larson, and who's also like ex-unified heavyweight champ, and Graham, Park, ex-unified light heavyweight champ. I still think he actually holds a light heavyweight belt in unified. Those guys are my main training partners, and like they just set such a high bar and such a good example that for me it's just like those are the guys I look up to. And then obviously like the owner of the gym, Jeff, he's like an ex military member, ex fighter, and he's our head coach, and it's like guys like 50 years old and he can still beat the living piss out of me and most of the people at the gym. And my black belt coach, Mike Newton, he is, like 40 years old. He's a firefighter. He's like a chief in Edmonton, and he's 40 friggin' years old, man. And I've been working out my whole life, and he kicks my ass in the gym, kicks my ass on the mats. And he's just just an all around good human being and a mentor to me. Right. So those are the guys I look up to, and I want to, be exactly like those guys. And, other than that, I would say, not a lot of current fighters that I really look up to be honest with you. I don't really like the shit talk of the game and all that stuff now. It's not kind of really who I am, so
yeah. Yeah, I respect that. So if you could kind of pick a dream fight for yourself, who would it be against, and where would it take place?
Like a current fighter, or like
current fighter, maybe in history, whatever.
Well, I mean, I would obviously love to be able to fight in Edmonton on a UFC card at some point in my life. I don't really care who the opponent is. Obviously, I would prefer if someone would want to stand and bang, just for the crowd's sake, But I want to rep my city in my city. That's why I love fighting for Unified, because like every time I go in there, I feel like I'm fighting for the city. I'm not just fighting for the promotion. I'm fighting for the city. I'm fighting for all the people that want to see a hometown guy achieve his goals and his dreams in the city. I love the city of Edmonton. I moved to the city because I wanted to live here, right? Because it's gritty, it's raw, it's got some rough edges just like Winnipeg, but it's also has a beautiful river valley, and the type of people that live here are the type of people that I want to spend time around. So, and I like doing my road work, running through the streets of Edmonton, seeing, like, it's a little, some parts of it are a little ghetto, and I like that. Right.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's amazing. And so when is your next fight, or have you kind of decided on that? I know there's a unified card in Toronto and another one in Edmonton. I think both of them one's in this month and one's in June, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so it's pretty sick. They're doing a card in Toronto, I believe, on June 14th, and it's going to be 6 p.m. Eastern time. So by the time that card finishes, the main card in Edmonton will start 2 hours later. So it'll be back to back. Yeah, so it's going to be like back to back showcase of like like the best combat athletes in across Canada that are not in the in the major promotion.
Yeah.
So it's going to be pretty cool to see. Like, there's some really good guys on the card. There's like, got my eye on a couple fights. Like, Lorenzo Celis is fighting. Chris Larson, my boy. He's training for that. He's got a big fight. There's a lot of good amateurs that are going to be on the card too. Like, I'm really excited to watch it. Unfortunately, I strained my MCL a couple weeks ago, so like I can't really train grappling at all right now, so that sucks. And after the BKFC knockout, I've been, I know a lot of people might think it's soft to say, but I got to give my brain a little bit of time to rest. I don't want to get back in there and get knocked out quick because I didn't give myself, the time my brain needed to fully heal. So I'm hoping that I can fight on the next unified card or the next unified boxing card following June. So hopefully, I would imagine they'll do a card in September. So hope in September, and that'll give me time to get in shape over the summer too, which is, everybody likes to be in shape in the summer. So
yeah.
Yeah,
I was gonna try to make my way out there to watch it live, but I'm running a half marathon at the in Manitoba here, just at the same
nice.
time, so I can't make it for that. But
but it's gonna be like UFC Fight Pass does a great job with Unified.
Yeah, I've watched it a few times on UFC Fight Pass, so it's pretty good. The last thing I just kind of wanted to ask you, first of all, thank you so much for your time. But when you're not fighting and training and that type of thing, you mentioned a little bit like you're in the law enforcement space, police or kind of what's
Well, I
that?
used to work in corrections, federal corrections. I know you guys got Stony Mountain up there.
Yep.
I got a lot of good friends that work up there. That's a tough place to work. But right now I am transitioning into hopefully a parole setting.
Okay.
So that's been taking up a little bit of my time. But other than that, I just like to spend time at the gym. Being like, even when I'm not training, I like to just go watch the jujitsu classes. And I got my girlfriend. She's an amateur boxer, and so I like to kind of hang out at their gym and spend time with a lot of amateurs. And I like to be around up and coming kids in the sport because it keeps me motivated too. And sometimes it's nice to be able, I haven't been in the sport very long, but I've been through a lot of shit in general in life. So I like to spend time with people who are interested in learning life's lessons and growing as people too, right? So that's kind of what I do with my spare time, mostly just hang out around the gym and stuff.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
that's amazing. And I really like that you're wanting to like give back to the younger generation. I feel like that's a really big, I don't know, I'm not a fighter, right? But I just feel like, when the old guys are kind of helping the younger generation kind of come up, just in my jujitsu gym or any of these other type of things, it makes it go full circle, and it creates a really good atmosphere for people to like come up and learn and be competitive and all that stuff.
Yeah, well, when I was a young man, like in my, teens, and when I was even before that in elementary school and stuff, I got in a lot of trouble, and I feel like, if I, would have had the opportunity to spend time around people who are in the martial arts community, I definitely probably would have been put on a different a path in life, and probably would have, accelerated my growth as a human being prior to, having to learn lessons the hard way. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And, being in a correctional facility and, seeing these like young 20-year-old young men and 25-year-old young men who are just, violent and angry and have been displaced in life because they haven't been able to have the opportunity to spend time around people like that either. It makes me just want to be around people like that. And what's life about if you can't help people, right? Really,
Yeah,
at the end of the day, right? Like, I mean, I'm probably not gonna be rich and famous, but if I can help one or two people along the way, whatever, life's got a purpose at that point, right?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, who knows, right? My whole thing with this channel is I just want to, try to help MMA in any way I can, because I'm a huge fan of the sport. I love martial arts. I'm a hobbyist myself, and I just feel like, some of the best people I've ever met are all in the jiu-jitsu and martial arts space, right? So if there's any way I can help in that, it's great.
I agree completely. Yeah, I really do think that it's I'm glad that jujitsu's kind of getting a lot of media attention, and a lot more young kids are getting into it and stuff. Like, because I truly wish when I was a young man that I would have been able to discover some of the things about life I've discovered on the mats, right? Like there really is, can't really learn those lessons anywhere else, right? So I wish that I'm actually very happy to be able to support anyone who wants to get involved, right? Because it's a special thing to be able to learn those life lessons in a positive environment, right? Rather than having to learn them on the streets or in a prison, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've got to run here, and I really appreciate your time, and I appreciate the interview.
No worries, buddy.
We had a great conversation here, and I'll send you this video. You can do with it what you want, and
Sure.
once again, just thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, no problem, man. It was great to meet you, and maybe if I want to get down to Winnipeg and train a little bit. So if I come down, maybe we can get together.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll definitely roll with you. You'll whoop my ass, but I'll definitely roll.
Well, I'm not that good at jiu-jitsu yet.
Neither am I. But I still like it, so it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, me too.
Anyway,
Me too.
take care.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries. Take care.